Welcome to Fan for Racing Radio. I'm Fan for Racing Sharon, and joining me is Jay Huseman, and we are here for the Bristol preview for the NASCAR Cup Series. Welcome to the show, Jay.
Thank you, Sharon. It's good to be here. We've been talking a lot about the triple, so we've got to do three in order to have the triple, and the Cup Series is the third and final.
Yes, indeed. So let's go ahead and get started with our preview for Bristol in the NASCAR Cup Series. They'll be racing the Food City 500 at Bristol Motor Speedway on this Sunday, April the 13th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. It is a 0.533 mile concrete oval, and you can find coverage on FS1 starting at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That's pre-race coverage. Also for the radio, you're going to look to PRN and Sirius XM NASCAR Radio Channel 90. They'll race a distance of 266.5 miles over 500 laps. First stage is 125 laps, ending on lap 125. Second stage, also 125 laps, win on lap 250. And then the last stage, 250 laps, ends on lap 500. So you'll be able to watch NASCAR Cup Series practice and Busch qualifying, the Busch Light Pole qualifying on Amazon Prime, PRN, and Sirius XM on Saturday, April the 12th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And then, as we mentioned, the race at 3 p.m. on FS1. So, Jay, what's in our lineup here in the NASCAR Cup Series?
Well, the lineup will include 39 drivers and teams for 40 spots, so everybody will make it, with 3 open teams. Some cool ones to watch this weekend with our normal charter teams. The 01 is going to be and it should be 0.01 for 1 penny. Corey LaJoie back in that machine. The number 33 from Richard Childress Racing, making his debut, we'll talk about Jesse Love. And then Josh Bilicki in the number 66. And they're all trying to be part of not just a Bristol race, but the 126th running of a NASCAR Bristol Motor Speedway race.
All right. Well, there's also a couple of drivers that are seeking 2 different kinds of triples this weekend at Bristol. How unusual do you think it would be for 2 different Joe Gibbs Racing drivers to fashion 3 race-winning streaks in the first 9 events of 2025 in the Cup Series season? Well, it could happen. You remember Christopher Bell going after a triple race win earlier in the season. Well, now it's Denny Hamlin, fresh from consecutive victories at Martinsville Speedway and Darlington Raceway. He's going for his 3rd straight win this Sunday in the Food City 500 at Bristol Motor Speedway. With a victory at Bristol, Hamlin could match the feat achieved by his teammate Christopher Bell in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th races of the season at Atlanta Motor Speedway, Circuit of the Americas, and Phoenix Raceway.
In the last season, the spring race of the 0.533 mile short track returned to the concrete surface after 3 years on dirt. Hamlin won for the 3rd time in the last 8 races at Bristol, and the 4th time overall, second only to Kyle Busch, who has 8 wins, and that's among the full-time active drivers.
The rate of tire fall off in last year's event took all the competitors by surprise and played into the hands of Hamlin, an acknowledged master of tire management. And I think that's true. That's one of the reasons why he's won at both Martinsville and Darlington.
Most certainly. However, that driver, Denny Hamlin of the number 11 Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota, he believes Sunday's race is more likely to mirror last fall's Bristol night race, which was won by Kyle Larson. So he's given the edge to his competitor.
Interesting. Hamlin will have a formidable challenge in Larson, who's going to be going for a triple of his own this weekend. Larson is competing in Friday's NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race Saturday's NASCAR Xfinity Series race, and Sunday's Cup race, hoping to sweep the weekend, a feat achieved by Busch twice at Bristol in 2010 and 17.
Now, no other driver has ever won all three National Series at the same track on the same weekend, though Larson came close 3 weeks ago now at Homestead Miami Speedway. He won the Truck and the Cup races, but lost the Xfinity race on a late restart in between those two.
No doubt Busch will be paying close attention to Larson's effort as he was at Homestead.
Yeah, I'm sure he was kind of keeping an eye on it. I said this earlier in one of the other previews. Even if Larson does pull it off, Kyle's still got to beat because he's done it twice. So he can still hold on to that. Now, when we're talking about Bristol, though, and Garen and I talked about this, the bottom lane of the track will be sprayed with the PJ1 track bite for all three races this weekend. It's a departure from the resin used last spring, and we might discuss that on Hot Topics instead of here now.
That's going to be interesting. Also interesting, Buescher is the only Bristol winner in the last 8 races to win from the starting spot outside the top 5. The Roush Fenway Keselowski driver won from 20th on the grid.
Now that Buescher deal, that's an exception, but it proves the rule, if you will. But if qualifying position remains a decisive factor, that argues for Hamlin as well. He leads all active drivers with 4 pole positions at Thunder Valley.
Okay. And Busch has 2 poles to his credit. No other full-time active driver has more than 1. So we'll see if Busch can land himself on the pole and increase on that lead.
And we'll dive into some of the statistics on that, as this weekend, 9 of the 55 NASCAR Cup Series Bristol Motor Speedway pole winners are entered in the race this weekend. We mentioned Denny Hamlin with his 4. They came in 19 and then 15, 14, and 13. Kyle Busch mentioned has a pair in 18 and 13. And then single poles, we got, and I'm going to go the other way now. 2010 was Joey Logano. Eric Jones had one in 2017. Kyle Larson in 18. It was Chase Elliott in 19. And then you got to jump up to 2023, where it was Christopher Bell, Ryan Blaney, and Alex Bowman were the 2 pole winners in 2024.
Okay. Now, Denny Hamlin with 3 and Kyle Larson with 2 have combined to win 5 of the last 8 Bristol races.
All right. Me and you will flip a coin later whether we get Larson or Hamlin. Denny Hamlin has won 4 times at Bristol. 3 of those 4 wins, though, came in the last 8 races. So the next-gen car certainly plays into his favor.
Okay. Now, 6 of the 44 NASCAR Cup Series Bristol Motor Speedway race winners are entered in this weekend's race. Let's start at the top. 6 active Bristol winners. Kyle Busch has the biggest number with 8. He had 2019. He also won in 07. He had a sweep in 09. In 2010, 11, 17, and 18. Denny Hamlin with his 4 in 12, 19, 23, and 24. Brad Keselowski has 3 in 2011, 12, and 20. Kyle Larson with 2. He's joined with Joey Logano also with 2. Larson's came in 21 and 24. And Joey Logano in 14 and 15. Chris Buescher, his win came in 2022.
Now, some other tracks we've seen this, but Bristol is a little bit different. Kyle Larson led 462 of the 500 laps led at Bristol last September, and that's the most ever led by a Hendrick Motorsports driver in any Cup race.
462 of Hendrick Motorsports' 577 laps led at Bristol, and the next gen car came last September when Kyle Larson was leading.
Now this race last year had a track record 54 lead changes. The fall race had 8, which was the fewest in the last 29 races there.
Now, no driver failed to finish due to an accident in this race at Bristol last year. That's the first time since May of 1983. That's amazing.
Wow. Yeah, I was 8 years old. Wow. There were 16 leaders in this race last year, and that tied for the most on a short track, any short track, since 1989.
Now, none of the last 16 races at Bristol has ended in an overtime. That sounds like the Truck Series. The last Bristol overtime race was in April of 2015. That's kind of amazing, too, when you think about it.
It is. And another one more stat here that goes back a long ways. Last September's Bristol race saw 36 laps of caution. That's the fewest for a race here since April of 1984, when there were only 19.
Wow, amazing. Now, a driver swept the stages in each of the last 3 Bristol races. Kyle Larson last September was the only driver ever to at Bristol to sweep both stages and win the race.
You know, it's amazing. You would think that if you're dominant, you would do all 3, the stages and the win, but we don't see that a whole lot.
It's true.
Now, there's only one caution free stage in the stage era of racing at Bristol.
And the driver leading the most laps won 5 of the last 6 Bristol races. And that's a switch from some of the other stats we've seen, where the driver who leads the most laps is not the one to win. But at Bristol, it's just the opposite.
Talking about the overtime finishes, that final green flag stretch was at least 121 laps in each of the last 3 Bristol races, and at least 57 laps in each of the last 6. So they get rolling here at the end of Bristol now.
Yes, they do. There are only 5 cautions at Bristol last September. That's tied for the fewest in the last 78 races there.
This one's kind of different, doesn't bode well for your younger drivers, but each of the last 22 races were won by a driver with at least 200 prior Cup Series starts.
Ooh, wow, that says a veteran. Okay, now Kyle Larson finished top 10 in 10 of his last 11 Bristol starts, including top 5s in all 5 races there with Hendrick Motorsports.
Just to add some more drivers to the mix of the conversation, we got 4 drivers that finished top 10 in the 4 Bristol races in this Gen 7 car. Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, and Chase Elliott.
2 Hendrick and 2 Joe Gibbs Racing. Now, 5 drivers. True. Yeah. 5 drivers finished top 10 in both races at Bristol last year. They include Christopher Bell, Alex Bowman, Kyle Larson, and Chase Elliott.
Just added another HMS driver. Yeah. 3 of the 5 drivers to finish in the top 10 in both Bristol races last year were Hendrick Motorsports drivers. That was Alex Bowman, Kyle Larson, and Chase Elliott.
Okay, now Joe Gibbs Racing led 957 of the 2,000 laps raced at Bristol in the Gen 7 car. That represents 48% of those laps. That's amazing that one team would do that.
Well, let's talk about Kyle Busch a little bit. He's got some history at Bristol. With his 8 wins, he ranks 5th all time, but he finished 20th or worse in each of the last 5 races there. So it's not been kind to him as of late.
No, it hasn't. Now, Ty Gibbs, 239 laps led at Bristol are his most led at any track. He led over 100 laps in 2 of the last 3 races there. So Ty Gibbs was showing some signs of kind of turning the ship around last week. Maybe that continues at Bristol this week.
And he's part of the 2 organizations we're talking about. His teams have swept the top 2 finishing positions in both races at Bristol in 2024. In the spring race in March, it was Joe Gibbs Racing. And then in September, it was Hendrick Motorsports.
Now, Denny Hamlin is going to make his 400th consecutive start at Bristol, the 29th to ever do so in the Cup season, and the 3rd active driver. So 400th consecutive starts at Bristol. That's amazing.
Now, this one's really interesting to me. We got 6 drivers, and it doesn't list who, but there's 6 drivers that have ended winless streaks of 50-plus races at Bristol. That's more than any other short track in Cup Series history. We talk about how tough it is, and yet that's where they're breaking their winless streak.
Yes, indeed. Now, the pole sitter finished second in each of the last 3 races of this year. That's the longest such streak since May of 1972. That's incredible as well. It seems to me like the stats are kind of flip-flopping this week from last week.
Right, exactly. Now, Denny Hamlin has tied Kyle Busch for the most wins among Joe Gibbs Racing at 56. We've talked about that and whether or not he can hit 60 this year.
Yes, yes. Now, Joey Logano is the only one of 2 defending champions without a top 5 finish through the season's first 8 races. Bill Elliott did that back in 1989, but we've been tracking this all season long. It's going to be interesting to see when he snaps that.
Now, 2 full-time teams that don't have a DNF yet in 2025, and I don't know if fans would have put any kind of money on these 2. Hayek Motorsports, which is Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and Legacy Motor Club, which is Eric Jones and John Hunter Nemechek.
That's right. There were 3 organizations, but I noticed one organization's dropped out.
And then there were 2.
And now there are 2, yes. The 205 lead lap finishers in 2025 are the most ever in the first 8 races of the season. So that's pretty incredible.
Now, 2025 is the first time since 2018 that 5 different teams have won the pole in the first 8 races of the season.
Okay, now Joe Gibbs Racing is the 3rd organization in history to win 5 of the first 8 races in a season, and the first 2 do it twice. Richard Childress Racing in 87, Hendrick Motorsports in 2007, and Joe Gibbs Racing in 2019, and again this season.
And Denny Hamlin was a part of that, and he can become the 3rd oldest driver to win 3 consecutive Cup races, and the oldest since Harry Gant in September of 1991. I'd have gotten that trivia question right.
Wow, some long-time stats here. Josh Berry accounts for 2 of Ford's 6 top 5 finishes in 2025, including the only win.
Now, we tied this to Joey Logano of, the Fords here. Their Ford 6 top 5s are the fewest since 1981, which was 6, and their top 20s, or their 20 top 10s, are the fewest since 2016, and that was at 14, and that's just through the first 8 races of a season.
Amazing. Okay, 2024 NASCAR Cup Series champion Joey Logano has 260 laps led in 25. That's the most for a driver through the first 8 races without a top 5 finish since 2016, when Matt Kenseth was at 306.
I know he had a rough weekend at Darlington, but Bubba Wallace's 78 stage points through 8 races in 2025 are his most ever at this point in his season, and he's increased that by 36 points over any previous year.
Good job for Bubba Wallace. 3 races ended with a last lap pass in 2025. That's tied for the most ever through 8 races since 2014.
Been talking about Ford's finishes. That's not an indication of how they're necessarily running, though, and Ryan Blaney proves that. He ranks 2nd in 2025 for stage points earned at 85, and that is a 36% of his total points earned this season as he's picked those points up through the stages.
Okay. Now, 3 full-time drivers have yet to score stage points in 2025. I'm sure we'll be tracking this for a little while. Anyway, Justin Haley, Riley Herbst, and Cody Ware are those 3 drivers.
Couple of last stats here. We got William Byron as he leads all drivers with 354 laps led in 2025. That's the fewest by the driver leading the most laps after 8 races in a season since Jim Pascal's 220, going back all the way to 1963.
Wow. Now, 3 drivers finished on the lead lap in all 8 races this year: Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, and Tyler Reddick. Kudos to all 3 of those drivers. Now, we do have some dignitaries that are at the racetrack this weekend. Rodney Atkins, a successful country music artist from East Tennessee, is going to perform the pre-race concert for the Food City 500 and for the NASCAR Cup Series at Bristol Motor Speedway on April 13th. Atkins will perform on the infield stage at Bristol at 12:45 p.m., leading into popular driver introductions with the NASCAR Cup Series race starting at 3 p.m. Oh, yes, the driver introductions are always fun at Bristol.
Oh, a significant part of Bristol. Now, Atkins, who hails from Knoxville and was raised in the Cumberland Gap, is a prominent figure in country music with 8 top 5 singles, over 14 million records sold, and 4 billion global streams.
Also announced this week by officials from Food City and Bristol Motor Speedway, the voice of Vols, Bill Kessling, Big Red Machine Captain Johnny Bench, and Vol Network executive Steve Early have been named dignitaries for the tradition-rich Food City 500 on Sunday.
And Kessling and Bench will serve as the co-grand marshals for the NASCAR Cup Series race. That'll take the green flag on Sunday at the iconic Bristol Motor Speedway. They'll give the command simultaneous for drivers to start their engines as the field of cars are lined up on pit road ready to begin the race.
It was also announced that Early, Vol Network Vice President and General Manager, was named honorary starter for the race. He will climb into the flag stand and wave the green flag for the start of the race on Sunday.
Now, to help race fans enjoy this weekend's Food City 500 NASCAR Cup Series race at Bristol Motor Speedway, track officials are making an 80-page commemorative souvenir program available for free in both printed and digital formats.
Wow, that's pretty nice. The souvenir program will once again be available in the reformatted Broadway playbill style size that is more convenient for friends to carry the program with them while they're at the track. A limited number of printed programs will be available to guests to pick up at a variety of locations on property during the event, including Bristol Motor Speedway's guest services locations, BMS souvenir stands, BMS operated campgrounds, and BMS ticket booths, and they're only available while supplies last.
So you want to get there early. I'll tell you that anyway. And that's one of the things as a fan of going to the track, both as a kid and as an adult, not going to lie, like to have from the tracks that I've visited and gone to races at.
Yes, those are fun to look at, aren't they, later on?
Bring back some good memories, that's for sure.
Okay. And then I always like to encourage fans to watch for more coming soon here at Fan for Racing Radio. Coming up, I believe this is our last preview show for the weekend, but on Monday we will have review shows for all of the races at Bristol Motor Speedway this weekend, as well as our Hot Topic Sound Off segment with Jay Huseman, yours truly, and Chris Crichton. So look forward to that. We may have another guest joining us. We'll keep you posted on that.
Looking forward to that. And rather than the normal race pick here, Sharon, I'm gonna ask a different question. You're talking about hot topics. Do you think we have more hot topics based on issues on the track coming out of Bristol than we did at Martinsville?
Oh my! Well, I'm sure there will be some. So, but I am interested in knowing who's your pick for this weekend, Jay.
Man, and I've said it before, and I guess maybe it is part of making history. Denny Hamlin winning, I think, draws attention to the sport. I'm going to say that will draw attention to the sport if Denny Hamlin wins at Bristol. for his third race in a row. If you recall, that is where he is quoted as to having beat your favorite driver. So,
well, and I have to agree with you. I've been thinking about this. I'd love to see Kyle Larson get that double, but I keep picking people or double. I mean triple. But I keep picking people that aren't called Kyle Larson.
right.
So I think I'm going to go for Denny Hamlin on this one too. I think it would be good for the sport to see him make that feat. And I also think as the oldest driver, one of the oldest drivers anyway, and he would be an oldest driver to accomplish that feat, I think that would be good for the sport as well.
You know, and if it happens, we'll have to see what they come out for the statistic line. Just thinking about it, I know we have had one driver win 3 or more races twice in the same year, but to have 2 different drivers do it from 2 different or from one organization, but in these first few races, I know we already covered that, but I mean, that really could be history making. So I think that would be huge. Again, you got to respect the talent, and Bristol is a track where Denny Hamlin can certainly get it done. And I think you hit on it, tire management, as that comes into play. The veterans you mentioned, you're having over 200 starts typically. I mean, that all fits Denny Hamlin to a T.
Yes, it does. 9 races into the season, and you've got Christopher Bell with 3 race wins. And if Denny Hamlin wins this weekend, that's 3 more race wins from Joe Gibbs Racing. That's 2/3 of the 9 races we've raced so far this season. That's pretty incredible.
And I'll say this, because I know Denny Hamlin's not a fan favorite. Now, again, I'm not necessarily a great fan of his, but I do think it would be great to see. If they were to, let's say, boo him, I do know what that's like. My son and I were at Bristol back in the day when Kyle Busch and Carl Edwards got into it. And the cheers for Carl Edwards versus the boos for Kyle Busch at that time, I mean, I can't even describe that experience when you're talking about the Coliseum of Bristol Motor Speedway and what that's like.
Wonder Valley. We lost Jay momentarily. Hopefully he'll call back in here. But while he does that, I just want to say thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. We really appreciate Jada, and I really enjoy doing these preview and review shows along with Sal Segala. And we hope you enjoy watching them as much as we enjoy doing them. I'm hoping that Jay is able to call back in here. Okay, now Jay's back.
Yeah, no, I'd put that up. We do have storms in the area here tonight, so I don't know if that's what caused that or not, but
it's very possible. It's very possible. No, I was just saying thank you to everybody for tuning in. We hope they enjoy watching. I hope everyone enjoys watching as much as Jay, Sal, and I enjoy doing these previews and review shows.
Most certainly, and look forward to doing some or whatever part of the reviews that get to do come Monday, and we will talk to you then.
Well, Jay, are you going to be at a racetrack this weekend? I know you said there's storms there. Is everything canceled now?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know. I was supposed to be on Saturday night at Jackson Motor Speedway, your Capital City Raceway. I'll have to wait and see if this moves through tonight. Hopefully isn't a factor, but I'll have to wait and see.
And I know earlier this week you were on another race show.
Yeah, I got the opportunity to be on the lap by lap with Garen Bach, and I know had a good time with it. There I did have some connectivity problems, unfortunately. I think that was due to my Wi-Fi connection, but it was a great time and got to be on theirs, and hopefully we can do a cross promotion with them as well.
Yes, we are extending an invitation to Garen to be on our Hot Topic Sound Off segment. So we'll see if he's able to join us some Monday night for that. If not this Monday night, perhaps another Monday night.
And looking forward to that. And again, like I said, I'm going to be on standby, wait and see with the weather and whatnot, what Jackson decides to do. But if not, you know me, I'll find something to do.
All right. Well, we hope everybody enjoys the Bristol Motor Speedway race weekend. And if you can get out to a local short track, do it, because We like to support the local short track. So have a good race weekend, everybody. We'll see you in the next video.